going to start at the beginning. And Jake, maybe you can give us a little bit about your inspiration for like the characters.
Yeah, well, there were sort of a few things. The characters, I don't know. They sort of, I feel like they tell me what they're going to be like once we're sort of writing the movie. You know, this started from revisiting the S.E. Hinton books, The Outsiders and Rumblefish and stuff. And I had loved them as a kid, and rereading them as an adult, they meant even more to me now because it sort of reminded me of why I liked them. You know, it's sort of like there's like a safe distance to engage with all those, like these kids doing all this sort of transgressive stuff. And I started thinking about what a science fiction movie written by her would feel like. And so that was sort of the first thing. There were a lot of these stories about drought at the time that were outside of America. It was before, you know, Texas and California, all the stuff we're dealing with now. And taking the politics of that stuff, what would happen if all this stuff just starts going a little bit further, seemed like a plausible way to sort of get into the world. And then, you know, the last thing was I wanted to do this sort of relationship between a father and a son that was a lot like sort of my relationship with my dad, who had died young, and I hadn't written anything about that really. And that had been on my mind. And the last thing was the big dog robot from Boston Dynamics, which, you know, I'd seen that video, and I've always been sort of interested in robotics, and I always wanted to make a robot movie. And all those things sort of came together so it became, you know, in the conflict. Well, if, you know, Children of Men had made London Fallujah, we'll make Colorado Zimbabwe. So what does that mean? They took the land away from, industrial farmers that are from companies that are out of state, and are giving it to the people that work the land. So that's Ernest's character, that's the conflict. He's the son of the landowner, you know. But that informs who Flem's going to be. Sort of, you know, there are larger environmental things that start to inform all this stuff. But it's really all sort of just working from like personal interests. Just the stuff that I'm feeling excited about. It's on my mind all the time, and I'm trying to hold on to it, shape it in some sort of story.
Nicholas, you famously play Beast right now in the X-Men franchise, lead character in Warm Bodies. You've been a hero recently in a lot of movies. How does it feel to kind of be not even an anti-hero, more of the villain in this film?
They're genuinely more interesting characters in many ways, because you have to find ways to make what they do make sense for you, no matter what it is, how bad and how low they stoop. There's got to be something backing it up which makes it make sense for you. So that there's a lot more to play with, and there's a lot more underneath the surface. I like playing characters like this. That was one I read the script and I was like, wow, straight away, like, this character. It was weird that the introduction to this character in the script was really written up. It was like he was smoking on the script.
That's right.
And you got rid of that. You're like, this guy's too smart to be a smoker. But it was like, you just, in the script, it's like you saw a thin ribbon of smoke etched across the screen, and he's there in his sunglasses, and it was all that, like...
And that's right. The first one, the kid is looking at the simulant robot. The script is like, Jerome's watching the simulant, and a cigarette butt bounces off of it, and the kid follows the thing, and it's him then. The kid's screaming smoke to the, you know...
And then I say a line and then spit.
Yeah.
It was great. I mean, I read that and I was like, damn, this is cool. This guy, and then I made him less cool. And I said,
No, but that's, yeah.
What was that drink called that they had?
Game. Yeah, Game is their version of... Game. Their version of Gatorade. And South African Gatorade was Game.
that game?
But that's also a lot about the way I just want to say, like, talking about the way it was scripted. I think it was written in, like, in a a less complicated way. I think Nick's own humanity and sort of intelligence makes Flem, like, the reason why he's such an interesting villain is really his playing. I don't mean it as just to compliment you as a thing. It would have felt like a more arch and maybe in some ways a more cliched type of bad guy, because I was operating on that sort of 50s Nicholas Ray, you know, that's kind of a, you know, bad kid, bad guy on the motorcycle, you know, rebel rousers, so those kinds of things. And he's, you know, really the reason that I think it feels more complex.
Yeah. Because actually I was going to say that it kind of reminded me of wow, I just lost it. Rebel Without a Cause.
Yeah.
Wow, help me with the actor's name. James Dean. Holy cow! I had it and then it went out. I haven't had coffee today, but it really did feel like if James Dean ever really got it, almost felt like his character in Giant, which I think is a credit both to the writing and your acting, because Giant is one of my favorite films, and I always loved that really complex. He's sort of a villain, but you kind of understand where he's coming from, and I think it's very interesting that you have the capability to show him when he's not doing bad things. You can see why he'd be really charming, and then you see these bad things. So did you kind of play those two different?
Sweetness to him.
Yeah.
It was just I genuinely think he cared for El's character, and in many ways probably cared for Cody's character as well. He wants to take care of people, and he knows he can do people this, and he knows he can do it, and he's got this fire burning that's just intense inside, where he's like, just give me the chance to do it, and I know I can. He believes in himself, but then I think there is like that sweet side to him. It's just that in this world he can't come out as much.
Was it? I was wondering if you could just talk about the scene where you killed Michael's character, and like what was it like just doing that like vicious one-on-one type setting?
I really enjoyed it. It's fun. I did a film earlier this year where I killed a couple of people as well. It's really good fun. It's odd kind of twisted therapy, I guess. You can talk more about how you shot it, because you were doing some interesting stuff with the camera.
Yeah, it was one of the, it was a very fast schedule, and everybody was coming from different places. And Nick had to leave twice for other work obligations, promotion of movies and stuff, and that was one of the only things we really got to rehearse. We were working 6 to 8 weeks and on 1 day off. Not that we went through all the choreography of the actual film, but it was one that we really got to sit down and talk about it, sort of go through all those scenes together, and I just wanted it to feel very, very brutal, but at the same time really show Flem's powers of how intelligent he is and what a great manipulator he is. And the idea of like covering the screams, the idea of having a character screaming with the victim in case someone was nearby, in case one of these, water workers was coming, down the mountain that day, and you heard somebody screaming, it would be he's screaming for help. And so that to me was the most chilling aspect, much more so than any of the sort of bloodshed, which in a funny way we don't even show that much of. You see the rock, and then it's really just about covering his tracks, making the scene what would seem like an out. The character's sort of a renowned alcoholic in the town. He's responsible for his wife's, paralysis from this car accident. It's all sort of done in that opaque, sort of esoteric way, but he's playing on all of those things. So just about making that stuff come clear and showing the beats of him covering up this crime.
The gamer community has taken interest in this film because it reminded them of this game called Fallout. I just wanted to know, were there any other influences like outside the film medium?
Gosh, I don't know what Fallout is.
It's okay. But,
I don't play games, so I don't know.
But were there any other influences outside of film?
Oh yeah, most of them really are outside of film. If you count outside of film, anime is something I really love in general, and not necessarily for the reasons that are like not because like action packed, like Neon Genesis Evangelion. Yes, we like obviously the Holy Grail, and really I love, but love a lot for those characters, and Ano, I think is his name, then made this one called His and Her Circumstances, which is really just like about these kids, like romantic lives and stuff. But that was a big influence for Jerome and Ears. When he crossed the border, the girl brings him across the border and everything. And I like, and then the mangas, like the Akira manga is so well laid out. It really storyboarded, almost more like a movie than just terrific. I know people say that a lot for comic books and stuff, but that one really has a very cinematic progression and things. So those are things that I really do look to. The rest of them are sort of books and documentaries about the Dust Bowl era. There were that one, and the Essie Hinton books were probably the biggest thing.
You're obviously quite prolific in science fiction genre movies. Is that something you feel quite at home doing? Is it something that you have a passion about?
I like watching those types of films, and then I find them interesting to me because it gives you this whole other world to play in, which is very fake, but then you kind of try and ground and within that. I mean, this one wasn't fake in many ways. Everything was.
It has a naturalistic feeling to it, but the world we've created is quite storybook and quite, movie-ish, or something like that. And I wanted it to sort of feel like classical and something that maybe was sort of made in another era. But the way that everybody interacts, sort of style, is very naturalistic.
Those things are fun though, because things like an X-Men or Warm Bodies or those things, it's a very strange world, and then you have to kind of make it, ground it, and find some sort of something to cling on to that's real enough that the audience can kind of sit there and be like, oh, it's not absolutely insane.
Yeah.
You get these characters still.
The other ones definitely feels like it's a science fiction movie at heart, but it does feel like it could happen. It doesn't feel like this is out of the realms.
No, exactly. Like, even though the sci-fi element of it, you take that away, and then you just kind of have an interesting family drama.
Yeah, because I guess that's the thing. Sometimes when it gets sort of put into the post-apocalyptic thing, I don't like it because I don't agree. There hasn't been some unnamed event or nuclear catastrophe or something from another planet that affected us and made everything die. It's an extrapolation of all this stuff that's already happening, and it's just about a lot of this is based on the water rights laws between California and Arizona. The water rights stuff. California's entitled to more water than Arizona, even though the Colorado River, goes through Arizona and 46 Colorado. They're not allowed to take as much water. And through the years, this agreement's been sort of changed many times. And the last one was in the 60s, so that Phoenix and Tucson could get more water. They agreed that in a catastrophe, they would be last on the list to get water from the Colorado River. But we're almost there. Like, they will lose 50% of their water before California loses a drop. Now you take that idea and push it a little bit further, and maybe you end up with a situation like in our movie. So it's not totally implausible.
Were they like
Parkour.
I just wanted to say that while watching this movie, the movie came to mind, There Will Be Blood.
Yeah, well, that's a great movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure they're thinking that.
Nick,
You should have made it that when I got shot at the end, it turned out I was a robot. Nice twist.
Nick, I'm
It's
wondering.
never explained.
Sorry, I was wondering how it is returning here from the returning here to the Javits Center, having premiered X-Men, and now you're coming with something smaller. Like, are you excited to experience Comic-Con without like a behemoth behind you? I'm guessing.
Yeah, that was great. That was a good premiere here, and that was the first time I'd seen the film as well. So it was obviously an exciting. But it's nice that these smaller movies, they're personal. It was also a blast from the past whenever you're doing press, because we shot this 18 months, 2 years ago. So suddenly I'm like, all these memories are flooding back at the time with you and these guys, and seeing Cody and Elle like grow up so much time already. I'm like, it's fun.
Yeah, we started shooting about 18 months ago, and then it's a very long. I think we almost didn't realize it also that it was like making this lower budgeted, but completely a VFX movie. Most of it, premiered at Sundance in January, and we finished it 3 days before, but we had finished filming in March or April.
You picked a very political issue of this, which is the water drought. And did you think it was ironic that this summer there was this ice bucket challenge where everyone was like wasting water during the biggest drought in California history? Did you think it was funny? Like, people will feel guilty when they see your movie now?
Yeah, I don't think people should feel guilty about that. I think it's an odd thing. Obviously everybody should be very aware of the amounts of water they're using, but I think also there should be a lot more discussion about how all this water is used in terms of agriculture and what we're growing, the amount of water it takes to grow cotton, and the way it's grown. And there are other industries that are what fracking does to our water is a lot worse than what it does what you're doing to your lawn. So obviously everybody needs to play their part and you have to ration and those sorts of things. I feel like I've read a lot more stories about people getting tickets for watering their lawn or taking long showers than I've seen about, you know, the industrial complex machine that really eradicated our water supplies. No, there were these threats in California, people ratting each other out about, you know, watering their lawns.
Younger siblings to older
You
siblings.
know, yes, you have to play your part, but so do these corporations that are really.
Because obviously you're from the UK, we're actually from the same town, from Woking.
Are you?
Yeah.
When did you leave?
3 years ago.
Huh?
You went to Roundtable.
I did, yeah. Where did you
I
go?
went to the forest.
You did?
Yeah.
I nearly went to the forest. So Mason and I went to the forest. How old are you?
I'm 30.
Oh, okay. So you're-
a few years ahead.
yeah. Which junior school did you go to?
St. Sebastian's.
Where's that?
It's in Crowthorne.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I was around that kind of thing.
I was in Arborfield.
Okay.
Junior school. That was good.
Jake, I'm curious because I really love how you do a sci-fi movie, but that focuses on the relationships. Would you ever consider going out into space?
Yeah, I'd love to make a movie in space. I mean, literally.
Yeah, in space.
Space with horses.
Yeah. I actually had a question. Working with the Big Dog and working with that, I've seen it in stuff. I actually work with the military in my day job. How was it Yeah. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah. But how was it like interacting with that? And even Nicholas, did you get to interact with it? And how much was it them kind of being like, okay, please don't touch it? Like,
The one in our movie is not Big Dog. I mean, there was a period where I got to spend some time with them, and they're an incredibly inspiring group. And in fact, the CEO that came to our movie last night was really excited for us to see them, have them come and see the movie and everything. No, in the end, it was very. They have obviously a lot going on. Google bought them. And, you know, they don't really have the time to dedicate to sorts of.
Well, so was it real? Was it actually? So it was just all post.
No, the torso is a practical element. You know, something we made out of fiberglass and however they make those sorts of things. But we had these two performers, these parkour performers underneath it, and then we would digitally remove them and then animate the legs.
Oh wow.
So the idea is that like this, and we try to do with everything in the movie, like the mother who's strung up in that local community for quadriplegics and stuff, is that like whatever you're looking at, the center point perspective of the frame is real, and I think that's the thing in movies. And it's the things that are sort of at the extremities that are the CGI, and your eye doesn't really go to them.
No, yeah, I mean the effects are amazing. I never would have guessed.
Watching the thing itself, if not real, it's practical. It's something you can.
It was amusing being on set with that thing. They couldn't see a lot of time where they were going. Because they'd fall over. It was like having this like odd, strange pet dog that didn't have a clue what was going on. These poor guys bent over like 90 degrees carrying it. They had such a terrible job.
They really.
Okay, everyone. Thank you.
Awesome.